Hi, Roshni.
Hi, Dean. Great to meet you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you too. So, tell me what a fractional CMO is or does. And maybe before you tell me what a fractional CMO is or does, and in the first 90 days, um, tell me who you are.
Yes, so I am the CEO of Prosh Marketing. We are a fractional CMO collective with fractional CMOs in Canada and US, servicing technology, professional services, and CPG. And so, a fractional CMO, in my opinion, is a marketing leader who's embedded in a company on a part time basis. So, just like the word fractional
Right.
says, you are a fractional resource that comes in, but you are not just a consultant. You are a part of the team, you are embedded in leadership, and you contribute not only strategy, but you help implement as well.
Okay, so imagine that,
And the first night,
let's take a hypothetical. Go ahead.
oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
I was
you
just going
wanted
to
to
say.
ask about the first
So,
90 days as well.
yeah, so let's set that up a little better than I did, right? So let's imagine there's like a hypothetical 1 year engagement, and today's day one, brand new client, you've never worked with them before, or if you want, talk about like a fictional fractional CMO, they've never worked with them before. So like, what does the first 90 days look like when you're the fractional CMO starting off?
Yeah, so the first thing I like to do is meet with all of the key stakeholders, including the key people in leadership. This gives me a good idea of the company culture as well as the company's goals and projections. And so once you kind of know all of the players, you kind of get a feel for the culture as well. That's a really big part of integrating yourself into the team. The next part comes with a lot of internal and external analysis. So you're looking at things like your market, your competition, all of those external factors, as well as internal factors. So, what are the resources you have at play? Who are the people that you can leverage? What are the different strengths of the team? And so, understanding both the external and internal environment gives you a good foundation for that as well. And then finally, what I would say is getting to actually the meat and potatoes, talking to customers. And as a fractional CMO, it's so vital to talk to customers and get a perspective from them on what makes your company special. Why do people enjoy working with you? And really understanding from their perspective how things are working can set you up for success.
Okay, excellent. So Tanya, hi.
Hi, Dean.
Same question.
How are you?
Um, I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Same question. Hypothetical 1 year scenario, right? And
Yeah.
today's day one. You're the new fractional CMO, right? Like most of the people in marketing in the company have never even heard of what a fractional. They had to Google it, right? They don't know what it is. So
Sure.
you've in the first 90 days, like what do you normally like to do, or what problems do you go looking for?
Mm.
Oh, and let people know who you are.
So,
I'm sorry.
yeah, okay, sure. I'm Tanya Van Soest, and I am the co-founder and managing director of the Articulate Collective, which is a
Mhm.
fractional brand and marketing collective. I have two fabulous co-founders, and together we work as a team to help specifically tech startups and scale ups get their foundation firmly in place so that they can confidently move forward and scale. But we're supported by a team of global part-time freelance marketing, communications, and brand specialists that we have all respectively worked with over the almost collective 100 years that the three of us, have been working in branding and marketing and communications. And the reason that we launched the Articulate Collective, which is a brand new initiative, it's only been up and running for the past 2 months, maybe not even, was to fill a gap for high growth companies looking for a more agile and scalable marketing solution that wouldn't cost them the earth, that wouldn't come with the risk often associated with hiring a CMO, and to really help these companies to bootstrap and get a little scrappy with accelerating their brand evolution.
Right.
So
Actually,
I agree with Rashni. I think that that's an excellent, best in class approach to a first 90-day fractional
mhm.
CMO role position and focus. But because our clients are often startups and scale ups, sometimes the entire engagement is 3 months, right? So we have to hit the ground running and be really, really prescriptive and highly prioritizing what are the key objectives. And so we don't always have the luxury of going in and taking the time to meet all of the stakeholders, speak with customers, get a proper lay of the land, which is absolutely best practice. And because these companies tend to be smaller, there aren't that many people to connect with and get to know. So it is a much more agile process to begin with. So what I can tell you what I do with our customers, and it's often not the first 90 days, it's often the first few conversations, and then we have a kickoff meeting and we're off to the races. We're identifying where they are in their journey. So typically a startup would follow a pretty linear trajectory in terms of their growth. So it's founder-led, product-led, sales-led, then you get VC money in the room, you get a board of directors, and then they look to scale and think that it's time to bring in marketing. And so we're also looking to disrupt this playbook a little bit by way of fractional marketing because it's more accessible, more affordable, and less risky. We're suggesting to clients in this phase of growth to bring the right kind of marketing in earlier, before you've got lots of stakeholders in the room telling you how you should sound, look, and feel. And the right kind of marketing is that foundational piece, right? Getting that brand strategy, that brand story, your messaging and positioning, even if it's going to iterate and change 100 times before you're ready to scale. Not all marketing is made equal, and not all marketing is relevant for each phase of growth. And so a lot of our conversations are, all right, how can we bring this in earlier? And how can we take a phased approach to making sure that you've got your foundations in place and you're ready to scale with confidence, and you're not going to be bullied around the room to and be pressured to listen to, you know, numerous voices when it does come time to scale. And we can bring in a whole other toolbox of tactics to help you do that.
So let's imagine then that I'm the CEO at your client.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've almost certainly had to convince somebody, even if it was just myself, to like put aside and budget that spend to bring in a fractional
Yeah.
CMO for a year, let's say, right?
Okay.
How am I going to squeeze maximum value out of the 12 months of CMO time that I have?
Well, already you're squeezing maximum value out of your CMO because you're hiring somebody who's fractional,
Yeah.
right? So there's no BS, there's no politics. There's, you know, we have probably a couple decades of experience behind us, right? I think one thing just to state for the record, a fractional CMO is somebody that is very senior, that has already worked in senior marketing leadership roles. It is not somebody who's, you know, just out of school or who's at the, you know, manager or director level. And we do see a lot of people hitching their wagon to the fractional trend. There is a bit of a zeitgeist going on right now, right? To be fair, everybody wants to have a piece of it. But and not that there's any legal definition, but, you know, to be fair, fractional was born out of a need to want to bring in senior expertise at a fraction of the cost, fraction of the time. So already you're making a very cost-effective decision by doing that. How do you then, beyond that, get the most out of them? I mean, you've got to have a very clear plan. If you're looking at a year trajectory, right? Roshini sounds like she's got more experience working in this capacity and in this way over this kind of duration. And she's absolutely right. Again, you've got to go in, get a lay of the land, get a plan in place, and make sure that you've got your milestones firmly in place. Of course, you can iterate and adjust accordingly as the business changes, regular touch points. And as a fractional CMO, I mean, our job is to stay focused on the low-hanging fruit, the heavy-hitting opportunities, and to make sure that we don't get distracted or our work is diluted by a lot of the superfluous or superficial elements that can often come in the way when you're in an organization full-time. Pressure's on, right? We've got to deliver. So I think it's kind of, that efficiency is kind of baked into the role.
So,
Does that
Rashni,
answer the
imagine
question?
that I'm the same CEO, right? Yes, I think so. So let me invert the question for you then. All right. How do companies, after they've they put aside and budgeted that spend, they went out and they found what they think is the right fractional CMO for them. How do they then proceed to waste that money? What do they do wrong? What should they stop
Yeah,
doing, but they keep doing it? Or what do they not do after the CMO starts?
it's a great question. I think the biggest thing that I've seen is not having a clear corporate strategy and looking to marketing to build your corporate strategy. So, a lot of founders and a lot of
Mhm.
growing companies look to marketing to build their corporate strategy, but marketing strategy should feed into your corporate or business strategy. And so, if you don't have a clear business plan, business goals, it's hard for marketing to support that. And so, that's the biggest way that you can waste their time.
Right.
Another thing is a lot of meetings with very little work. So, I find that fractional CMO engagements that are focused
Mhm.
really on meetings without allowing, time to actually go away and do the work also wastes a lot of time because there's a lot of talking and discussion without a lot of action and output. And especially when you're trying to be efficient using a fractional CMO model, efficiency is important. So you need to also have them doing work, building processes, building your team, and all the strategy involved as well. So ultimately, I think it's like having a clear direction and focus is so important for startups. And it doesn't mean that things don't change because as we know, things are always changing. The markets are changing, customers, competition, etc. But it means that the company has to have a clear focus in where they're going, what they want to achieve. And that's how marketing can best support. And that's how a fractional CMO at a strategic level can best support them as well. I also find that if you don't have any implementation resources and you're only looking to heavy up on your strategy, that can also be a challenge as well. So we've worked with a lot of companies that are growing and maybe have a limited budget, so they spend all of their money on strategy. Now, we would never advise that because
Right.
then you have no one implementing anything, so there's no results. So ultimately, what we're looking for is a partnership between maybe a fractional marketing director, even, or an agency that can come in and do some ground level stuff, or maybe even an intern who can come in to do day to day. But some level of implementation assistance needs to be in place for us to be able to execute and make the strategy worthwhile.
I
Okay.
think I
So
would.
let's talk
I
about
love
the
that
intern.
answer, by the way. Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Can I respond just for a
Mhm.
sec?
Yeah, go ahead.
Excuse
Yeah.
me. Yeah. So just to build on that, I think there is many different versions and varieties of fractional CMOs as there are businesses. And in my experience, I've worked with several companies that have actually called upon our input, our expertise to help them with their company vision, mission, and strategy, and be in the room and weigh in on how do we think the target audience is going to respond. What do helping to develop a total addressable market, being the intermediary, maybe working with a third party vendor to put that in place. And I actually really love being in the room and being part of that strategic conversation. And I think that's often more the case and the opportunity with startups. They're trying to get the most out of every resource and every brain in the room. And so oftentimes you do find yourself, I'd like to think of it as an opportunity to wear a different hat and grow that muscle a little bit. Having said that, I would agree that ideally it's nicer to come into the room as a marketing professional with that strategy more or less firmly in place and fully baked so that we can get to work doing what we do best.
Yeah, and I think like what I'm differing is I think we differ on business and marketing strategy. What you're talking about is still marketing strategy, in my opinion. So
Okay.
I would still want to weigh in on all of the marketing section, which is
Right.
customers, market, and that kind of stuff. But
Mm,
business strategy is looking at more of your business objectives, what markets you're playing in, more so of the overall business
right.
plan as
Yeah.
opposed to getting into the marketing details.
Yeah, I think maybe the space that I've worked in has been a hybrid of those two elements. And again, I think in bigger enterprise organizations, it's a little bit more siloed and differentiated, whereas in a scrappy startup, it all sort of seems to blend together in my experience.
So, Rashid, I'm still the CEO of this company, and now I'm looking at you mentioned an intern, right? So let's talk about the intern, the junior staffers, the middle staffers in marketing, assuming there are in the company, right? Sometimes they're quite small and
Mhm.
haven't hired in yet. But there's a marketing department, let's say, right? I've brought in this fractional CMO for the next 12 months. How should I expect that team to be different and ideally better at the end of the 12 months when that fractional CMO has been around, the day before that fractional CMO shows up?
Yeah, so I think after working with a fractional CMO, marketing teams get transformed in a variety of different ways. One way is from a pure knowledge
Mm-hmm.
perspective. Most of these interns or junior marketers don't really know how to do strategy. So by watching a fractional CMO, seeing what they do, for example, talking to customers, looking at value propositions, just absorbing some of the work that they do, they can also just learn a little bit of why they're doing the things they're doing. So they have a little bit more purpose and direction. And they've also now learned a little bit about how to work on strategy, how to connect their tactics to strategy. We also find that they're a little bit more proficient in their tools. So fractional CMOs have probably used the tools and processes that they've done before, so can provide best practices, tips, case studies, all of those things. Another great part about a fractional CMO is usually they work with a number of different clients. So they have resources that they can
Right.
bring in, or maybe even partners they can bring in. So they could share for co marketing purposes or bundling products or services. So it's more opportunities for that marketing team to market themselves as well. And then finally, it's personal growth. So having a senior level marketer at a team can really help that personal growth for all of the junior marketers in terms of career progression,
Right.
in terms of learning, and all of that stuff.
And Tanya, what do you think? How's my team going to be different or better with after the money that I've spent on this fractional CMO?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully they're not left hanging high and dry, and there's some plan to either bring in permanent leadership or to,
Right.
yeah, keep some kind of marketing leadership in place. But let's say, for example, companies maybe had some issues and they've got to cut some costs, and there's no longer marketing leadership in place. I think leaving a team with the ability to carry on, to have the processes, the templates, and the understanding, the knowledge of how to continue to scale and move the business forward without missing too many beats is essential. So, for example, if you've got a global team, making sure that everybody understands, where do core assets lie? How do you build upon those core assets? What are the templates that are available that can be used for initiative A, B, or C? Who can they pull in for additional support, whether that's internal or external? Give them the tools to be able to carry on with or without you. I mean, I think the goal is to enable a team to become increasingly autonomous and streamlined in your presence or in your absence.
All right. And then so let's talk about the most junior person on that team. Okay. So imagine that I'm the 23-year-old recent college grad, let's say. This is my first full-time job, really, real quote unquote real job, right? And it's in the marketing team of this company. That's your client, right? And so if I'm that junior person and I've gone ahead, like I said, and Googled and found out what a fractional CMO is, and there's going to be one sort of around, not every day, around, like what can I do or what should I do or not, right, in order to get, and I'm not trying to sound mercenary here, but to take full advantage of the opportunity of having someone that senior around when that level of seniority has not existed, in the 3 months that I've already been at this company. Tanya, what's the advice to the young
Well,
Tanya just starting out today?
I mean, I think the you have to manage expectations as a
Mm-hmm.
fractional CMO regarding your bandwidth and availability. And again, every situation is different. But we have to be really, guardrailed
Mm-hmm.
around the hours that we spend. I think it depends on the objectives and on the ecosystem of the company that you're coming into. If you know that you're going to be there for a set period of time, you're there to set up the team for future success. You're looking at bringing on a permanent CMO eventually and helping to
Mm-hmm.
enable and train them, and make sure that you're handing over a team that again has become more autonomous and mature and capable of working together better. Um, Having some office hours, having some time where you can be available to the global marketing team, however junior or senior, opening the door for that opportunity to come in and a safe space, ask all the questions you want, have an open dialogue, have a more structured weekly meeting if it's possible and within in the scope of work. But at the end of the day, if you've got a larger organization, you're not going to have time to speak to all levels of hierarchy on a regular basis. And so I
Right.
think the job of the fractional CMO is to make sure that they are working closely with their first level line managers and making sure that they are being trained and enabled to coach and mentor their more junior team members. But I would say, whatever the case may be, however much bandwidth, however big or small the scope of work is, however big or small the team is, giving everybody some access to you, whether that is through office hours or in a regular communication, written communication, video communication, making sure that they understand what you're doing there, what your objectives are, why you're asking the global team to do things, celebrating successes, making sure that the milestones are clearly defined. All of that open, transparent communication, however small it is essential. Sorry, I thought
Mm.
I
No, that's
silenced my notifications.
good. You're fine. And Rashni, like, what do you think? I'm the junior person, right? And there's like essentially a part-time recurring fractional CMO for the next 12 months, but like a day a week or whatever. Like, what, what, or how do I sort of, take advantage of that opportunity as far as like looking long term at my own career?
Yeah, I think using the fractional CMO for not only technical information, but also personal growth information can be really helpful. And so looking
Mm-hmm.
at, where do you want to be in the next 12 months? Where do you want to be in the next 3 months, even? And talking about that with your fractional CMO can also help them guide you in terms of career progression within your organization. Because ultimately, the fractional CMO is responsible for the whole marketing team and looking to grow people within there as well for the better of the company. Another great practice that I've seen is having really clear one on ones where you've got a structured agenda. You're looking at the things that you want to work on, as well as your functional tasks that you have to do. So, not only do you go through the things that you have to do for your job and your responsibilities, but then also talk about things that you want to grow into. So, areas that you are specifically passionate about or areas where you're interested in. Maybe even see if there's an opportunity to follow your fractional CMO around in different meetings to see how they handle cross functional discussions and things like that. So, taking advantage, shadowing, learning from them. There are many different ways to engage with the fractional CMO that can ultimately grow junior marketers really efficiently.
Okay, so we're winding down. I got a couple of questions left I want to get put from you guys. So, Roshni, we'll go with you first. Um, I'm just going to be blunt about this, okay? There are easier ways to make a living. So, why this job? Why?
Yeah, so
Why do this?
I love the work of a fractional CMO because you can just jump into a business and start adding value almost immediately. I think that in a normal CMO or marketing leadership role, sometimes there is a long learning curve and there is time to get into things. But with a fractional CMO, as Tanya mentioned earlier, oh, sorry, but with a fractional CMO, we generally jump right in and get started right away. So ultimately, the ability to add value immediately is something that's super valuable. Also, I just love working with so many different clients. Realistically, in a regular work environment, I would work on one company and one business. But having the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to work with so many different clients really adds that variety and also enables me to continue my learning and my growth as well, because I learn from every opportunity as well. And then finally, I think that being able to make an impact on growing businesses has been the main motivation that we at Prosh Marketing really go after, because we love to make an impact and make a difference. And it's something that we can just wrap our whole hands around as well.
And Tanya, what do you think? Why? Why do this?
Well, I mean, if there's an easier, I don't know that there's an easier way for me personally to make a
Oh,
living.
yeah.
I find marketing and communications very natural, and it comes to me easily. I wouldn't say the job is always easy, but I've been living and breathing marketing and communications for 23 years, and I can't imagine doing anything else, quite frankly. It's either this or nothing at all, I feel. Um, yeah, I live and breathe it. And since I started working as a fractional marketer, I jump out of bed. I, you know, like Roshni, love the diversity of clients and opportunity. One of the reasons, in addition to really feeling that there was a gap in the market for the startups and the scale ups out there with regard to marketing, I wanted to be able to bring the maximum value back to my customers. And there's no way that I'm exponentializing my growth by staying in one company for the
Right.
next 2 to 3 years. If I've, got 15 years left of working, maybe 20, I've got half a dozen customers then that I can get experience from and with. And that's not growing at scale. So I can have, 5 customers in a month, and my mind is just being blown on a daily basis by how much I'm learning and seeing what to do, what not to do. So not only am I exponentializing my growth, I'm therefore adding exponential value back into my customer base.
All right.
And last but not least, Dean, I am a storyteller at heart. I love to craft narrative, brand strategy. I love getting the story right. I love working with visual designers to help create an extension of that from a visual narrative perspective. And I love bringing a vision to life. There's nothing better than sitting down with a CEO who just brain dumps on you, and then leaves it up to you to take all of that great ideation and passion and put it into a marketing plan and see that come to life and see a business grow with that. I mean, that's magic for me. So I don't know, if you can find another way to make a better living doing all of that, let me know.
Oh, okay. So this is we've just started season 4. So this is actually just like I think the third episode of season 4, and the questions change a little bit in every season, and we're having fun with the last question in our set for season 4, and it's because I don't have to ask it. So Tanya, if you could ask anything around fractional CMOing of Roshni, like what question would you ask? And then Roshni's going to get to ask you one back. What do you normally ask another fractional CMO
Okay.
when you meet one?
Well, because it's still early days for our
Sure. Yeah.
agency, I ask a lot of questions about prospecting
Mm-hmm.
and lead generation. Um, and we have tweaked our strategy and our approach quite a lot since we started out only a few months ago. But I guess from a practical perspective, that would probably be one of the questions:
How do you
is
find clients?
how do you approach prospecting, and yeah, how have you come across any hacks, for example, like getting into the VC network and casting a wider web,
Right.
or yeah, anything like that?
Yeah, our biggest growth methods are really tied around partnerships. So we partner with a number of different organizations who have similar customer bases, from VC networks to incubators and accelerators to other fractional shops. And so most of our business comes through referrals, and we really focus on those to grow.
Amazing. Makes
Yeah.
sense. We've discovered something
Yeah.
very similar.
And Roshni, what's your question?
My question for you is, what are the different use cases that you find really special when you're doing fractional CMO work?
Well, I guess one of the predominant use cases that we keep seeing are these startups and scale ups who have never really thought that they could afford to bring in marketing earlier into their growth journey. And honestly, didn't even really understand the difference between the type of marketing that you would need to deploy then versus when you're ready to scale versus further down the road. Um, and so I love the partnership environment and engagement that we have with our customers, teaching them about marketing, helping them to understand how we can not only as a fractional leader help their business get going in the right direction and prepare to scale, but also bring in a fraction of the marketing pie. I mean, I've been working in this industry for a couple decades and I'm still learning about marketing. So I can't ever expect the CEO of a tech company to even begin to grasp what are the different tools that we can bring in and bring out along the way. And so what the use case that I love, that I keep hoping that I can, repeat over time is exactly that, is coming in and, taking the hand of a new founder, of a CEO, and working with them to help grow their understanding of how marketing can play a role, of how a leader in this space can help play a very important role much earlier in the game. And they don't need to wait until they've got product market fit, money in the room, board of directors saying go. There's a way to really scale and accelerate that growth much earlier in the game. So that's my favorite use case so far, and that's where I'm doubling down.
So it's time to wrap up. Tanya, who should contact you these days, and how should they do it?
Yeah, our ideal customer profile are startups and scale ups within the tech space, even SMBs that are looking to launch a new line of business, who have maybe experienced a lot of quick growth. Maybe there's been an acquisition along the way, and they need to look at how they can integrate that product and that ecosystem into their own. There's a lot to be said and done around, taking a step back, reestablishing those brand foundations, and developing a cohesive new story. So tech, SaaS, but we're also very experienced cross industry. So the door's open, but for sure our love and our passion and our core specialization is within the tech space. North American based and European based work for us. My two co-founders are based in Spain and in London, respectively. And we've all three of us worked internationally our entire lives. Two of us having worked and lived in Asia for over a decade. So our Rolodex is quite large. And that means that our collective of freelance specialists is also global. So right now, North America and Europe is working well for us from a time zone perspective. And we'll see what the future brings in terms of scaling out beyond that geographically in the future.
And Roshni, who should contact you these days, and how?
Yeah, we're looking to help startups and small businesses, really startups at Series A or beyond, and small businesses looking to scale and grow with marketing leadership. We're looking for customers across Canada, US, and Europe. We've got fractional CMOs in all of those different areas. And again, our main areas are technology, professional services, and CPG. Within tech, we've serviced health tech, fintech, prop tech, AI, SaaS, all of the tech pretty much. Within professional services, we've got healthcare, we've got legal services, accountants, and then CPG, food, apparel, appliances, etc. So anyone in those verticals looking for experienced marketing professionals with a great network of implementation resources as well can reach out.
All right. Well, thank both of you. It was and now it's the time to lose my voice, right? Thanks for being here, Roshni, and thanks, Tanya. And thanks for watching this. You're probably watching it on a clip if our analytics tell us anything at all. So hopefully you enjoyed the clip that you saw, and we'll see everyone next time. Bye. Hey, Yvonne.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. Yvonne, before we start, can you tell folks who you are?
Yeah, I'm Yvonne Kinzer. I'm originally from Venezuela, but I have been in the US for 23 years now. And I
Mhm.
have been during that time going back and forth between advertising agencies, global advertising agencies like McCann Erickson, for example, to the brands. I have worked for 500 Fortune companies like American Airlines and small startup technology startups. My last decade almost, I spent it as the head of marketing for avocados from Mexico. And then 12 months ago, I just started my own practice, marketing practice, and I'm now a fractional CMO.
All right. So, what is a fractional CMO?
It's a CMO, but you give a fraction of your time to different companies and they give you a fraction of the salary. And so among all of
Okay.
them, give you a CMO salary, but and among all of them, you have a full-time job. So that's a very easy way to
Okay.
put it.
That is very succinct. All right. So let's jump in. Uh, okay. Hypothetical. You just started a brand new client, new everything, brand new 1 year fractional CMO engagement. Okay. Today's day one. What do you normally do, or what do you normally look for? What problems do you normally see in the first 3 months, in the first 90 days of a brand new engagement with a new client?
That's still with me? That's for
Mm-hmm.
me? Okay. Yes.
And then I'm
You
gonna
know,
then I'm gonna ask Hannah.
okay. It's not different than a full-time job, any job that you have, and it's a different
Mm-hmm.
approach. Every person may have a different approach. I concentrate the first days or weeks in understanding how decisions are made in that particular company and the corporate culture. That's very, very important when you are going to lead a team, and just being a CMO or a fractional CMO is understanding the decision-making culture, who is who, what is the role. And I'm not talking about traditional roles like a VP of this or VP of that or director. I'm talking about the roles that are unspoken within the culture, who has influence where. And then after learning the people and the culture is learning the business, or you can do that simultaneously. Everything about the business before you even have a thought about what you're going to do is very, very important to understand everything around the context and the business itself. And then you can start forming your own criteria and opinions. The strategies are coming together in your mind, what you could do to help that company grow.
Right. Okay. And okay, so let me switch to Hannah then. Hannah, hi.
Hi.
Hannah. So Hannah, can you tell people a little bit about you, and then what you normally like do or seek out in the first 90 days of a new engagement?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Hannah Rowe. I'm a fractional CMO. I'm based across the UK and the US, having recently launched a UK brand into the US market. I mainly work with consumer lifestyle brands. I help them build their brand awareness and put their key marketing metrics and their omnichannel infrastructure in place. I've pretty much always
Mhm.
been in this field, even early in my career. Before I went out on my own, I worked for Casio, Huawei, and other brands that people usually recognize. So, in the first 90 days, when I go into a business, in my experience, I'm normally brought in when a brand wants to get to the next level, increase their revenue, customers, or they have a specific block, a business challenge, or even a product that they need to take to market. So they need a GTM strategy. Um,
Mhm.
some problems I often see are kind of like high performance marketing costs, unable to retain their customers, low brand awareness. So what I would do is come in and set a strategy. And I kind of look at, I guess, three key things in the first 90 days. Really importantly, understanding the data I'm working with, and set realistic targets based on the industry you're in, and also really prioritizing those metrics. I think it's very easy, to kind of want everything to be going in the right way, but actually really prioritizing the building blocks of those metrics, because one will lead to the other. High performance marketing costs often is because your brand
Right.
awareness might be low, etc. And I think also
Right.
another thing is looking at the budget and the resources that are available, and just being realistic and then kind of working back from that. So doing a bit of an audit of kind of how the budget is being split across different channels. And if there is any other marketing in place, there might not be anything in place. So really looking at the resources there, whether it's internally or agency, and kind of seeing what might be possible to kind of really build out that strategy.
Okay, so
A
then
busy
let's
90 days.
talk about yeah, busy 90 days. All right, so let's talk about that for a second. Imagine I'm the CEO at the client. Okay, I had to convince somebody, even if it was just myself, to allocate, and budget out that spend to have a fractional CMO come in for a year. Right? How am I going to get maximum value out of that CMO?
So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
Okay. So maximum value out of the CMO, I think, is trying to look beyond the 90 days as well. I love to have a longer view, strategic thought process going on to try and build sustainable growth and brand equity. I think recognizing that the CMO is kind of your partner. So I think you're going to get the most value by lots of conversations and a lot of alignment, but also staying focused. So staying focused on kind of what the challenge might have been, or kind of where the business needs to get to, whether it's customers or revenue, and don't get too distracted by different tactics, I suppose, to get there. Keep kind of staying focused on strategic objectives, but also recognizing that in today's world, businesses, especially startups, they change quite quickly. So I think being adaptable and, as I mentioned, being a partner to the CEO is kind of first and foremost. And I think being honest about the best use of your time. I think as you are fractional, the best use of your time is probably not in doing too much of the doing, but also making sure you've got the right resources in place and just being really honest about where your time is best spent.
Right. Oh, that's a good answer. Ivan, so I want to change the question a tiny bit. How do companies, CEOs, or how do companies typically waste the money that they're spending on their fractional CMO? Like, what do they do that they shouldn't be doing, or what do they stop doing that they should have kept doing? And so they end up sort of muting the strengths of that CMO.
Yeah, to answering that question, I'm going to add a little bit to the first question about the 90 days and also the second question. So it's all tied together. I think that there's, for me in particular, what I do is two pretty big areas of focus, which is budget and goals of their goals and their budget. And I'm a maximizer. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just look at the budget and look at the goals and see where can I help them optimize the resources and optimize the budget so we can not only reach but exceed the goals. And that is, why, giving them a reason why you should bring a fractional CMO, because it's going to bring growth to your business and cost efficiencies because of the experience that we have working with many brands. Now, how they waste or what they do and shouldn't do, I think that before bringing a fractional CMO in, they have to first have very, very clear goals. So when we ask, what are your goals, they can articulate those goals very, very clear, in a very clear way, so we can and be very also informative with the resources that they have, that the CMO can take and accomplish those and help them accomplish those goals. I think that the lack of clarity is just going to lead to time wasted, and time in in any industry is a big barrier for growth. I think the more clarity they have, the faster they are going to see the results. I also think that if you're bringing someone externally, you have to be prepared if the relationship is not directly with the CEO, which is typically is, but there's also other teams involved. They have to just explain everybody the value this person is bringing, the goals this person is going to accomplish or aim to accomplish, and just to get collaboration of everybody to help this person succeed, because if this person succeeds, the company succeeds. But it's just, that understanding of the role, because it's a very relatively new role for more companies, for them to understand. It's just this role is coming to help the entire company, including the marketing teams.
Okay. Hey, Yvonne, so speaking of the marketing team, in the first 90 days or so, like what, if anything, changes for the marketing team, the staffers that are already in place, the junior folks, the mid-level folks, right? What changes for them in the first 3 months when a fractional CMO starts?
Well, the first is a new person leading them, and
Yeah.
is very non-traditional. So it's a little bit of a cultural shock. And I'm not saying this in a negative way, but it's like, doesn't matter how good they embrace this new person or what they bring to the table, is still a little bit of a shock, because it's a new person. It's like a transplant, right? And
Right.
so that's the first thing. And just getting, be open to be led by a new person that it was not part of the organization last week. I think that's one. It's a little bit of a challenge for everybody. And I think it's the responsibility of the CMO, or fractional CMO, makes everybody feels comfortable and understand that we are here to help the company and the teams.
And Hannah, what do you think? Like, how is the marketing team, the marketing staffers, how are they like different or better even after the first 90 days, if at all? How are they different, at least after the first 90 days of, in all likelihood, they may have had management in marketing before, but not actual C-level leadership before in marketing, right? So like, how are they better off at the end of that, let's say, first 3 months?
So the team are better off because often what I find is I go into a business and there's a lot happening, lots of busy work, overworked team sometimes, because they're just struggling to kind of prioritize, because they're probably junior members maybe, that just haven't, they need guidance. And I think they often don't have that because they might be going directly to a CEO that hasn't got time for them. And so I think what I would come in and kind of support a team with is setting the processes and making the alignment, and also prioritization. So I think to really make sure, we're going after the right metrics, and the right channels are actually working for the brand or the business. So they'll be better off because they'll also be able to kind of manage up a bit better as well. I think there's often a lack of that, being able to manage up to kind of a CEO. So the fractional CMO is that perfect buffer, I suppose, as well, to kind of put the right processes in place and to support the team, but also support the CEO.
Can I add something to that?
No.
So one thing
Sure.
that I have seen is that there's teams that are with very, very smart people doing an amazing job, but the efforts are disconnected. And what that happens is that no matter how much effort and hard work they put towards one direction, when the efforts are disconnected, the company doesn't see the results. So what a CMO comes to do is just integrating everyone with a unique vision. So every effort of every single person goes in the direction of the company's goals. And that, what I have seen is just very, it brings great relief for the teams, because now they feel working in together and toward a direction that makes sense for everybody. So that organization and that alignment brings the teams relieve a lot of stress and bring a lot of clarity, and with clarity a new sense of purpose for the whole organization.
Okay, so Yvonne, I want to ask you this question, and then I'm going to ask Hannah. So here's a new hypothetical. Someone you've known a long time, kind of a friend, calls you up and says, "Hey, so I know you're a fractional CMO, and my kid just started their career in marketing. They're the most junior hire in this company that they're now at in marketing, and they just brought in a fractional CMO. Do you have any advice for my kid in what to say, what to do, what to ask, or sort of like how to plan? So for the 1 year that they're going to have this senior person around in at least limited capacity, like what should they do or be thinking about?"
I think that someone that just graduated or someone that is starting their career, that's the best time to learn. Be a sponge. Learn, ask questions. I don't think that ever any question is a stupid question when it's genuine. When you really want to know, there's, unless you just want to ask a question to be able to say something. But if the question is genuine and you want to learn, those are always great questions. And again, any question that you get answered, any information that you have is what is going to build the stepping stones in your career. So knowledge is absolutely important in the first years. Don't worry about growing for now. Don't worry about just being light. It's just learn.
And Hannah, what would you advise your friend's kid starting out their marketing career?
I would advise, I think the learn is fundamental. I think something that, is always a challenge for all of us, but is super important, is to take feedback as well, like to be able to kind of use it to really enhance your career. Because fundamentally that fractional CMO is coming in for a fraction of the time to help develop the team, because that's kind of the most important thing. So I think learn from them. And I think often what I find with junior team members is they are doing great work, but they're not that visible, or they're not showing or able to promote themselves internally, and kind of manage up. So I think I would kind of come in and really help them sell themselves. I've worked at large corporations such as Huawei, where if you didn't shout about what you were doing, no one would know. And I think that came to me really early on. And I think whatever size of the business, I think it's around kind of that. And also I think they'd be able to kind of shout about, and I'd be able to help them understand kind of what they actually want to get involved in, because often in businesses, there's an opportunity to do something that you might not currently be doing. And so they'd be able to learn to kind of ask, and feel just really supported. And then ultimately, I think the final thing is they're probably very much in the executional, doing frantic stage, and unable to kind of prioritize and see the bigger picture. So I think, having a senior leader in marketing in the team enables you to kind of understand a bit more around the goal you're working towards, and be a bit more strategic to help kind of further your career.
All right. Okay, so this is season 4, and in season 4, we always change the questions up a little bit between seasons, and this is the part of the podcast in season 4 where I don't have to do anything. So you guys can ask each other a question, and I think we're going to start with Hannah asking Yvonne, and then we'll flip it back. So what would be your question, Hannah?
I'm going to ask you, if you weren't a CMO, a fractional CMO, what would you be doing?
Well, first, I think that I will be a full-time CMO. But I think I will definitely be in marketing. Marketing today has so many different specialties that I will pick any of those. I love content creation, storytelling, branding. Digital marketing is in my core. I'm doing digital marketing since 2002. So I think that I will be probably still working on my own and helping companies in any of those capacities of marketing. Most likely in the content production, storytelling for the brand, etc. Now I ask her a
All right.
question.
And Yvonne, what's your question?
So, what are the pros and cons that you see between being a fractional CMO versus a full-time CMO, and why do you like one better than the other one?
I like being a fractional CMO because I love variety. And I really get a buzz out of kind of going into a business and seeing what the problem is, and kind of helping kind of solve that challenge. And I guess I get a buzz out of kind of the sales piece as well, seeing the number and the metrics go in the right direction. And by doing that across a few different businesses, not only there's different challenges at stake and different metrics you're going after, but also there's just so much learning between them all. So I find that really rewarding. And I think, generally I'm quite adaptable. So I think it just works for me, being able to kind of work across a few different clients. And I think I like having the kind of time frame around it as well. Being fractional, it's often, you're not going to be forever. You're probably training up a team so they can do it. I really find that piece really rewarding, setting up the processes. And then kind of moving on when the time is right to the next business. I've walked myself out of roles before because I'm like, I'm no longer what you need. I've given you what you need, or you need this specialism because this is what I've identified in the strategy, an influencer expert or a manager, which is no longer going to be me.
Right.
And if you can only afford a certain amount, then go after that, because my job has been done. So I love that piece of it. I think, when you're in a business as a full-time CMO, you can do that, but it's a lot different to kind of walk yourself out of a job, and you're a bit more ingrained in that business. Whereas I think I'm very good at kind of being adaptable and recognizing what a business needs at what time. And so that's what I do.
Okay.
All right. Hannah, who should contact you these days? What potential kind of client should contact you these days?
Fast growth consumer startup brands or scale up brands, who don't have the processes and the infrastructure in place to grow at the speed they need to or want to.
All right. And they get in touch with you at LinkedIn, looks like on your screen?
Find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place right now.
Okay. And Yvonne, how about you? Who should contact you these days?
So I have organically specialized in the food and beverage category, but it has been someone that has problems, that have a very clear problem they are looking to solve, and using marketing as a tool and marketing strategy. So that's kind of my I don't have any specific line of or industry, even though I have been in the food and beverage. But is one thing is common and very clear is I'm a problem solver, and it has to be a very clear problem. That's the first thing that I ask my clients is, what is the biggest challenge that you haven't been able to solve? And then I develop the solutions to solve it using marketing as a tool.
All right.
And
Thanks, Yvonne.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, go ahead.
And they can contact me on LinkedIn.
Everybody's on LinkedIn. Okay, fair enough. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Yvonne. Thanks, Hannah, so much for this. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching. You're probably watching this in a clip if the analytics are telling us anything. And so it was great to have you with us for a few moments. There's lots more. Just look around. I promise you there's thousands. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Dee.
Okay, Ryan. So let's do this, man. Tell folks who you are and tell folks what a fractional CMO is.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. So I'm Ryan Kovach. I am the CEO of Alt CMO, and we are a network of fractional CMOs for the AEC industry, which is architecture, engineering, and construction. To me, what a fractional CMO is a couple of things. One is somebody that can step in interimly while maybe a potential leader is out, and they need, for an extended period of time, and they need somebody to step in to that role and facilitate that role. In a lot of my cases, the fractional CMO becomes an alternative to a full-time hire of a chief marketing officer. And therefore it's not interim. You're not going into it expecting to leave. You're going into expecting to forever be within that role as a marketing leader. And so probably 90% of my clients are looking at it from that perspective. It's a way to not bear the burden of the cost for a chief marketing officer, but have a chief marketing officer on staff.
All right. So here's our setup for this podcast, right? There's a hypothetical, brand new 1-year engagement, new client. Today's day one. We're going to talk about the first 90 days. And then I'm going to switch to Pam. So first 90 days, what sort of problems do you go looking for? What questions are you asking, right? How are you getting the lay of the land in the first 90 days of a brand new client on a brand new engagement?
Yeah, the first thing I want to do is look at the org chart because I want to go and meet with obviously the leadership team. But then beyond that, I want to meet with directors in sales, biz dev, SDRs, anybody in a growth function. I also want to spend time one-on-one with any of the junior level marketers or the internal marketing team. If they have a outsourced marketing agency that they're doing their business with, I want to schedule time with those guys. Next, I'm going to want to find out historically what they've done from a marketing standpoint. I want to look at what's been successful or what they deem as successful versus, maybe less successful endeavors, and gather all of that information. Next, I want to go and do complete audits from top to bottom. I want to audit and just digital footprint. I want to audit brand amplification. I also want to look at anything that third-party vendors are doing from a marketing or a marketing tool standpoint, and look at that to see if, number one, if they're being quote unquote honest and not just supplying vanity metrics. And number two, I want to get an idea of what they think the marketing objectives are. So really for me, lots of time understanding where the financials are at, what their cost to acquire is, what's their average retention rate. I mean, I want to know as much as I can historically about the company and who's running what. Right. That's what I'm going to do first 90 days.
Right. Nice. So, hey, Pam.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you. So, Pam, tell folks a little bit about you and then talk about what you like to see or do in the first 90 days of a brand new engagement.
Excellent. So Pam Dinner here. I'm a B2B marketing consultant and fractional CMO, and I specialize in building sales and marketing alignment. By doing so, working together as a team to drive demand for their companies. And that's what I do. In terms of what I would do, say today is the day one of my job for the 1-year engagement. There are a couple of things I would do. Obviously, one is to understand the business goal and the current marketing challenges, and understand the marketing challenges by talking to various different people, internal stakeholder, external agency, and then put an interim plan together for the management team to approve and also for the team to implement. So that's one, is try to meet with as many people as possible, put a plan together. The second thing to do is identify some of the low-hanging fruit, do what I can to capture quick wins.
Okay. So let's imagine, Pam, that I am the CEO of your client company. Okay.
Yeah.
how does a CEO like me waste the money that they put aside to pay a fractional CMO? Like, what do CEOs do that they should stop doing because it's, reducing the effectiveness, or what should they start doing that they're not doing now to get maximum value out of that CMO they're going to have for the next 12 months or however long?
Well, great question. So if you are client CEO, and how do you maximize the value with the fractional CEO? And let's assume that you have a 1 year engagement. There are many things you can do to actually enhance that. Obviously, as a CEO working with a fractional CMO, one thing is don't treat the fractional CMO as a part-time employee. Treat them as if they were your full-time executive. Bring him or her into your executive meetings, and you should also have a regular one-on-one with them to understand what the team is going, what has been accomplished, what are in the process to get done, and at the same time do what you can to actually help them and remove barriers if you can.
Okay. And Ryan, what do you think? What's the nightmare scenario? I mean, this shouldn't happen because you've done your qualification of your prospecting all the way through till you finally sign, right? But let's say that the CEO gets swapped out just the day before or just shortly before you start. What's the worst kind of scenario that you would have to get around when starting brand new?
Yeah, I think the worst type of scenario that you can run into is a CEO, number one, that doesn't understand marketing. That's kind of a given, but it happens more often than not. Number two is a CEO that kind of gatekeeps other people within the organization. Oftentimes it's, I don't really want you talking to Jimmy or Susie. They're super busy. I've got them on projects. I've got them doing things, and I really don't want them being bothered. Having no access to key decision makers, or even, what I would call floor level, junior marketers, SDRs, whatever it may be.
Yep.
Not having access to that is going to be a huge waste of money on that CEO's part if they hire me. And again, having a good understanding of marketing in general, I think is a skill that CEOs should acquire, because it can be quite difficult when they don't.
I would like to add one additional thought on
Yeah.
top of that. Ryan actually covers a lot of the key points. Another thing, I think, in addition that the CEO it's nice to actually have that basic marketing knowledge. It's also up to the fractional CMO to actually educate the CEO, and in terms of what marketing is, especially digital marketing, and also what have been done so far to actually help him or her realize in terms of the fractional CMO's contribution. That's also another way to actually help, say, the new CEO to be ramp up and up to speed.
Oh, no, that's a good point. Man, that's a really good point. Hey, Ryan, so let me switch again, okay? So I'm the CEO at the client. You're my new fractional CMO, and I say, Ryan, we've got some junior and mid-level folks on our marketing team right now. Can you give me some insight into how those folks are going to be better 3 months from now?
Yeah. So one of the things that I do when I'm working with, what I would call your junior to mid-level guys,
Yeah.
is I like to explain my purposes. I think oftentimes leaders, they're moving quick. They've got, orders, from the top down. They've got things to get done, right? So you can get too much in an executive type mindset where it's just barking transactional items for people. What I want to do is have regular meetings with the internal or external marketing team. I want to explain why we're doing what we're doing, so that they get a better understanding of what the thought process is behind that. I think too often we don't
Explain.
give them enough credit to understand what our visions and goals are. And we become a top down, barking orders, so to speak. And that's going to, cause mutiny. It's just, they're not going to learn anything. So really explaining the process. If there's some Marcom tools that need to be used that maybe they're not familiar with, getting down in the dirt with them, helping them to understand those tools, why we're using those tools, how to effectively maximize those tools, and all of that. So my goal is always with my team or the team of my clients is to, if I've got knowledge to share, I'm going to share it because we're all going to rise with the tide, right?
All right. And Pam, what do you think? If I ask you as a CEO, like, how's this team going to be better? How are these people going to be improved in the next 90 days? Like, what's accomplishable in the first 90 days?
So what Ryan actually covered a lot of the ground. It was wonderful. But one thing that from my perspective is a lot of the team members who are junior, that means they are probably feel sure on the soft skills. When I'm talking about soft skills is the communication skill, the presentation skill, the leadership skills. And what I will see actually help the junior members to actually grow is looking to their strengths and also weaknesses. What are the area that they are very, very good at, and what are some of the area they need to improve on, and then help them from the perspective of coaching and the career development.
Okay, so you both sort of mentioned junior folks. I want to try a different scenario here. Okay,
Sure.
so someone you've known a long time, Pam, calls you up and says,
Yep.
Pam, my kid graduated and just started their first job and was junior marketer at a company that, and my kid says that I have a fractional CMO starting on Monday. Like, I Googled it, and so did my kid, because we didn't know what a fractional CMO was. And now that we know, do you have any advice from someone just starting out in their marketing career, where for the next 12 months, there's going to be at least partial maybe access or exposure to a really senior marketing person? Like, what should they do?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So if you are junior staff and then there is a fractional CMO that being injected as a part of the organization, how do you take advantage of that? If I were a junior staff, I would set up a one-on-one with a fractional CMO and proactively introduce myself and let them know that my background, which is very limited, up to date, and also tell him or her where I want to be in the future if I know that vision. If I don't, I would like to actually have a chat with the fractional CMO just to understand from him or his or her perspective what they can do to actually help. And I will be very specific in terms of what I'm looking for, and and that the fractional CMO know what I'm looking for, and see if there's a way to actually build that relationship in terms of a mentor and mentee relationship for the next 12 months. In addition to do my jobs, of course.
Right. Well, yeah. And Ryan, how about you? Like, what advice would you give to the 25-year-old Ryan just starting out in marketing, and a CMO's sort of like come into the picture?
Yeah, as a fractional CMO, if a junior level person coming into the organization wants to gain more access to me, and advance in their career, the first thing I would tell them is, I want you to be as inquisitive as possible. I want you to be absolutely as creative as possible, even with all the fear that can come with, what if I don't have it right? We don't care. Bring that in, that curiosity, bring that creativity, be 1000% willing to completely screw up. But I'd rather you screw up with proactive creativity and ideas and curiosity than to sit back and be more of a McDonald's drive-through where you're just taking orders and being transactional. I'd rather see you mess up, blunder, and all of that, and learn from that mess up and blunder, than to see you afraid and not taking risks and not being creative. Because in my opinion, creativity takes a little bit of a misfit mindset, and it takes a little bit of pushing the boundaries in some way. And if you're not willing to push the boundaries and go head to head with CEOs and head to head with sales guys and everything else, then you're probably going to have a very lackluster career in marketing. So be curious, be willing to absolutely screw up, push the envelope, be creative, and bring the fire.
All right. Okay. So this has been great. I don't want to leave until I give you guys a chance to ask each other a question. You can ask anything you want. So we'll start with you, Ryan, since we just did the other one. So, like, Ryan, what would you ask Pam or another fractional CMO that you had just met?
Pam, I'd want to know from you what you, from a fractional CMO, what you think the average engagement time looks like versus, let's say, a digital marketing agency where everything is outsourced. Like, what would you consider a good tenure for a fractional CMO time wise?
Ryan, that's actually a great question. And if you want a straight answer, I think it's 6 to 12 months. However, it really depends on the stage or the progress that the marketing team of that company has come so far. If the company is very, very young, there's no process, there's actually no people doing the job, they are really just trying to build it. That's going to take a whole lot longer, right? To build that process, keep things going. However, if the team already being established, there are certain process limited and there is still a long way to go, but everybody is trying very hard and everybody is very excited about it, maybe 3 to 6 months. So personally, I think to actually have a good result with a fractional CMO, Ryan, you can tell me I'm totally off on this. It's usually about 6 to 12 months, sometimes even longer. And that also depends on the size of the company. So
Good. Great.
And Pam, what's your question for Ryan?
So Ryan, obviously you have witnessed and experienced many fractional CMO opportunities. Can you share with us what it was the best experience you ever had and why was it?
Yeah, the best experience I've had thus far in my career is, I started working with a general contractor that, at the time was probably $5 million in annual revenue total, building backyard barns and barndominiums and things like that. And had a great team, had smart guys, allowed me full unfettered access to truly lead marketing, right? Never got in the way, ever. Slowly identifying bigger opportunities like churches and schools to be built. Achieved that goal year one. Year two, identifying bigger opportunities, wanted to get into building multi-use, facilities, and achieve that goal. Year 5 and 6, and this is, how long I actually stayed as a fractional CMO with them because it just worked. I was fortunate enough to get in on the front end. Fast forward, now one of the largest general contracting firms in their entire state. They're doing about $1 billion in revenue, total revenue. They're involved in some of the biggest, most prestigious projects in their city, and it's just been a fun ride. And having that complete and total trust to truly just whatever you need, Ryan, let us know. You've geared us in the right direction. And here's, kind of an unlimited checkbook, so to speak, to do what you need to do to continue to make us successful. If I can get into those types of scenarios, I'm game all day long.
Yeah. People and trust and unlimited checkbook.
And unlimited checkbooks. Gotta love that too.
Great answer. Thank you so much, Ryan.
You as well, Pam. Thank you.
All right, guys. So thanks very much for this. It's time to wind it up. Pam, who should be contacting you these days and how should they get to you?
www.pamduna.com is actually a default way to get in touch with me. And I'm also pretty active on social media channels from YouTube, LinkedIn, down to TikTok. So just Google Pam Duna and you will be able to find me.
All right. And Ryan, how about you? Who should contact you these days and how?
The type of person that should contact me is anybody in the architectural, engineering, and construction space or home trades. Typically funded startups, all the way up to the multi-billion-dollar. We have the capabilities of handling those accounts internally. Companies that have very progressive mindsets when it comes to growth. They want to grow, and they've got the vision, to make it happen. So you can find me at altcmo.net, and my team and I would love to hear what your needs are.
So Dean, sorry to inject. I didn't answer your first question. Who should contact me? And Ryan did such a great job.
I just thought you didn't want any new business, and so I wasn't going to.
I did not even hear that clearly. My apologies. And so if you are a well-established startup or a mid-sized company, that you are in the process growing to the next stage and you need a fractional CMO to help you, check me out. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right. So you do want new clients. Good to know. All right. I remember.
I do.
All right. Fair enough. All right. So thanks very much, Ryan. I appreciate this, man. And thank you very much, Pam. Well, it's great to see you again. Thanks for watching this. According to the analytics, you're 99.5% likely to watch it on a clip instead of the whole episode.